Namaste. This video is about the concept of time in India by Tadb and Maxim. By the end of the video, the viewers will gain knowledge about the history of India, whether it is a past, present, or future-oriented country, and how time is a factor of daily life and business in India. India has a rich and vast history of traditions and culture. The country has been the empire of various civilizations, a colony of the British, and now a sovereign state. India is the land of diverse religions and cultures. Each religion has its own cultural value towards time, as some traditions are based upon time. For example, in the Hindu religion, weddings take place during the night, whereas for the Sikh religion, the weddings take place during the day. Overall, talking about time in India, it is given great importance, as everyone in India knows this saying by a famous poet Kabir Das, Kal kare so aaj kare so abhi, which implies if you have something to do tomorrow, you should do it today. And if you have something to do today, you should do it right now, or you might regret not doing it.
As per our viewpoint, India is a country which is both past and present oriented. We believe so as the population of India can be divided into two parts, the rural population and the urban population. The rural areas are less developed as compared to the cities and are not influenced by external culture and media, whereas urban areas are the opposite, bringing about the change that can be noticed in the perception of people and how traditions are followed, hence making India a past and present oriented country. Two examples that can highlight the difference between the urban and rural population are: for rural people, late night would mean midnight or 1 o'clock at most, but for urban people there is no such time limit. The second example is attire. In the rural areas should be respectful towards the traditions, to not offend the locals, whereas in urban areas one can dress the way they choose to. Hence, wearing a miniskirt in rural areas would not be wise, but in the urban areas it would be perfectly alright.
Alright. Good evening, ma'am. I would like to ask you a couple of questions regarding time.
Yeah, please go ahead.
What, according to you, is time?
Time, according to me, is a relative dimension along which we conduct every activity, and it's a scale around which it's opportunity to us to be able to do and achieve anything that we wish to do. So,
Alright. So, then how important is time to you?
time is very important. Time is very, very important to me because it is the only commodity which we cannot get back, which we cannot recover once it's gone. So hence, there is absolutely no time for procrastination.
Alright. Do you feel that all people around you also hold the same opinion?
By and large, yes, but I would rather say the older generation. And being an educator, I am a real stickler for time. And what I have noticed is that the youngsters today do not really value the time, and they disregard its importance.
How say that they don't have value for time, so as to say?
Often they think it's a very cool thing to be late, and they disregard and consider time as a very casual aspect. And I've also seen in our culture that the importance that should be given to time is sadly not so. So you go to a tailor and you tell him you want a particular dress on time or at a particular time. They would say yes, but would not deliver. Similarly, you go to any store, so the delivery systems are not very time bound, and they say it's all right, it's casual. That casualness is what makes me feel, and those are excellent examples to say that they do not value time in our culture.
Alright. Can you list some measures to change this concept?
Well, yeah, I guess we have to start from the public sector itself. Our officers, they need to be on time to their offices. They need to be sticklers for times, and they need to be able to set this communication lowest level of the worker in the public sector. Similarly, even the private sector need to take their requisite measures and be sticklers for time and not procrastinate or think it's great to be working late and it shows more productivity. I would disagree. Productivity comes only within that period of time.
The notion of time for business in India can be divided into two parts: the government sector and the private sector. The government sector has a more traditional outlook towards time, whereas the private sector has a modern outlook towards time. The government sector is known to be synchronic, whereas the private sector is known to be sequential in its working.
An interesting life story that analyzes the polychronic nature of India would be of Tadb's professor, who was used to giving presentations in India, which were usually open in timings, which means that the presentations could go 15-20 minutes over time, or even more. But then she went to give a presentation in an American university where she was surprised to see that the time allowed for the presentation could not go even 5 minutes more, showing the monochronic nature of time in America and polychronic nature of time in India.